I love orcs. They have a stupid, fun-loving playstyle. Their miniatures are actually really cool and probably some of the best in the game. And they bring this fun sense of joy to play against and with. And I wanted to build one of these. When I first saw them, I wanted to construct a proper orc army so I could go, you know what? That's a cool army. I want to play with it. But when I went to YouTube and tried to find a proper full guide on how to fully construct my orc army and how to cover every basis of Warhammer 40,000, there wasn't one. I looked and looked and looked and there wasn't one. There was never a full guide on how to properly construct every step of the way to successfully building your orc army. Sure, there were videos that covered one step, like building or painting or strategies with specific characters that really didn't help me at all. But there was never a full collective guide that covered all the steps in depth, so I could just watch it and I could go away from the video knowing exactly what I needed to do. So I just did a bunch of research. I did tons and tons and tons of research and learnt from my own experiences, and I've actually built a successful orc army that has won a decent amount of games. But I want to make this a whole lot easier for you. I don't want you to have to go on YouTube or go on the internet or go on Reddit and do tons and tons of research into finding each individual step and tips on how to do it. I want to make a full collective guide that goes in depth and in analysis of how to properly construct an orc army with every single step covered, from painting to using strategies to freaking building even. I want to go in depth and how to do it properly and tips I've learned about each step along the way. So, without any further ado, let's get into how to waaaaaagh. Okay, look, let's cover the first very, very important step, which is going to be figuring out what the heck is going to go in your army miniature-wise. This step is crucial, very important to building a good orc army, as, well, it's your entire foundation. It's your entire purpose, and if you mess one of these up, you've automatically wasted, $50? And you're going to have a strategy that doesn't work, and your army's going to be pretty defective. So, I want to go into proper miniature selection for this army. Now, if you're playing competitive, this is a very different scene. Basically, you're just wanting to spam Beastnagger boys and do whatever the current meta is with orcs. Very simple. If you want to play competitive with any army, follow the meta down to a T and you'll do very, very well. But if you're playing more of a casual game, or more of a competitive / casual kind of playstyle, then you'll want to follow this advice I'm about to give. The orcs have a very, very, very large index, probably one of the biggest in the game, and this can make it absolutely impossible to choose miniatures. Now, sure, there are specific miniatures that are a lot better than others, but if you can't look at the tournament lists, there really is no specific one that's winning. Some tournament lists are taking Ghazghkull, some aren't taking Ghazghkull, some are taking huge mobs of Squig Hogs, some aren't taking Squig Hogs, some are even taking Gorkanaut. So there are a lot of different options that you can choose from that actually do really well in the orc army. It's all just about finding how you play and implementing that into the orcs. But there are 3 miniatures that I think are absolutely crucial to a successful orc army that you're going to have to really, really pay attention to. The first miniature is Mozrog Scragbad. This guy is definitely the biggest and the baddest. He is just incredible, and you will probably not see an orc army not running him. But what makes him so good? Well, he plays perfectly into not doing anything and doing everything. He is probably one of the strongest orcs in the game, with a 4-up Feel No Pain, a 3-up save, and a T5 toughness, and a 5-up invulnerable save. He is going to tank the whole army. I am not joking. I have had games where Mozrog has tanked an entire shooting phase. And this is one of his main purposes. To be a distraction. To be this anchor and this bullet sponge that you can put into your army so you can feel safe pushing the rest of your army up. He opens the door to so many new possibilities for orcs, and it stops that initial first shooting phase where you can get almost your entire army wiped up. When you have this bullet sponge, you feel a lot safer moving your army up to be successfully in combat range, which is what you want with orcs. But he doesn't just play into that. He also plays into killing. Now, if he does not die in that first shooting phase, which there's a great chance he will, he will ravage the army. With his Gut Ripper having 6 attacks on a 2-up and devastating wounds and extra attacks, that's not going to look very good for the enemy. And with his second gun having anti-vehicle and anti-monster fall up, that's not good. And with the ability to be able to explode 5s when doing a charge, which is his special ability, and getting 1 extra damage when fighting monsters or vehicles, and getting 2 extra damage when fighting Titanics, he will ravage, wipe, and destroy anything that gets in his path. He will destroy a baby knight. He can take a baby knight by himself. That is how powerful he is. He is not scared of anything. And with his incredible ability to save shots and his incredible ability to fight shots, he is a necessity in your army. And this is a one, if you don't take any of the other two I say, take Mozrog. The second really crucial part of your army is going to be Beast Snagger Boys and Beast Boss. These guys, while being a little bit less crucial than Mozrog, are still very important as they supply a decent amount of damage that can be required. When put a successful charge when being led by Beast Boss, they get devastating wounds. And with sustained hits, you're able to put the exploding 5s on them. That can do a lot of damage. So having some of them in your army is just so helpful to dealing with units that you need to get rid of fast and can't get to with your other forms of attack. They're very helpful. They're quite tough with a T5, and they have a really bad feel no pain with up of 6, but it's still helpful because it's there. It still gives you a chance to survive, and it makes them a lot better than regular boys. Now, yes, you need to take regular boys, but having even one squad of Beast Snagger Boys with Beast Boss is just going to be very helpful. So you need to think about taking them. And the third crucial one is the truck. There's not much I can say about the truck. The truck is simply just incredible. It's a fantastic dedicated transport that's going to just get your orc army from a bad spot in the battlefield to a really good spot. It's going to take them up the board so they can dismount and get there, get in the enemy's face as fast as possible. They're going to take your Beast Snagger Boys from being shot at continuously to up in the board, ready to charge with dead wounds ready. So, there's not much to say about the truck. It's just very important. Now that we've gone over these 3 in crucial orc army, I think that after this, you need to choose to build around this. How do you want to play into this? If you really like the idea of the feel no pains and you think, oh, you know what? I like the Beast Snagger Boys feel no pain, and I like Mozrog's feel no pain. I want to keep going with that. Then maybe you want to invest in Squighog Boys with a 5-up feel no pain. Or you might want to put Super Cyborg Body on Deathkiller Wartrike and take a squad of 3 Warbikers. Or if you really like the killing potential of all the dead wounds you're getting from the 2 there, then you might want to take more of critically damaging units, and you might want to take more that can supply dead wounds. Well, like Squighogs, and you might want to invest in more Beast Snagger Boys for more dead wounds, or you might want to go with Flash Kits with their sustained hits and heavy, which allows for really good shooting. It's all up to you. All you have to do is find how you want to play orcs. How do you want to war, and then go with that. It's as simple as that and really easy. All you need is those 3 crucial characters, find how you want to play orcs, and build around how do you want to play orcs with those 3 characters in mind. Once you have successfully chosen your orc army and all your miniatures and they're all sorted and you got an army that you think is going to do really, really well, the next step, which is kind of annoying and my least favorite step, is building those miniatures. This can be a pain if you've never done it before. There is so much that goes into building that people don't realize, and it gets really, really glanced because it's a really ugly factor of Warhammer. It's not an attractive feature, and people don't like to go into it because it can drive people away from the hobby. But I'm going to touch into it because I actually care and want to help you. So here are some tips when building orcs and how to do it properly. Number 1. If you have small connections, really small, like connections that you're gluing, or you're gluing weird positions like the Squighog's wheelie or Gazgol's leaning, just use super glue. Save yourself some time and use super glue. This will help you so much as it hardens it and it will actually stop it from moving. Because if you use the regular plastic glue for those small connections and leaning features, I'm going to give you a heads up, it just doesn't work. Things fall off, and I've had games where things have just fallen off random connections because the glue had slowly worn down. So use super glue. It saves you so much time and it saves you a lot of damage on your miniature, so you don't have to worry about that. But when using super glue, only a tiny amount is necessary. Do not shower it in super glue, as it can leave little globs, because it hardens the glue, doesn't harden the plastic, hardens the glue, it can leave globs on your miniature, and it can leave puddles if you're doing it on the bottom, which don't look too attractive and can make your model less readable, which you don't really want. The second tip I have is not to worry about glue stains. Now, when you're gluing, you're most likely going to get glue on your fingers, and then the glue is going to go on the miniature, and when you take it off, it's been a bit frazzled. The whole point of plastic glue is that it melts the glue together. This is what bonds the 2 miniature and holds it together. When you get it on your fingers and you put it on your miniature, it melts the plastic only a tiny bit, but it still does, and it leaves this weird mark. And it can be really, really, really stupid, and you can feel really down by it because you've made your miniature look stupid. But don't worry about that. Seriously, don't worry. That part of it goes away as soon as you prime it. As soon as you prime the miniature, all those stupid glue stains go away and it looks as smooth as if it wasn't even there in the first place. So that's my building tips. It's not a very attractive stage, and I don't blame you if you get mad at it, but you have to go through it. Things are going to fall off, things are going to come apart, and things are going to look a bit weird. But the best thing I can do is hold your miniatures together tightly so the mold lines don't come through. Use super glue for weak connections, and don't worry about plastic stains as they go away when you prime them. After you have successfully built all your miniatures and have them primed with a primer of your choice based on what colors you want to pick, this is going to come down to painting. And oh god, here we go. Painting orcs can be a nightmare. They have so many details, small little belt buckles and laces and nails and little stupid wires that come off them. That's an absolute pain to paint all of them. And I bet you've been told for a long time this is the only way to paint orcs. You need to paint every single detail up and down. Every strap needs to be a different shade of brown, and you need to have different leather coloring for every single backpack, pants, or anything that comes along with the miniature. Now this can be fine, but basing the miniature is a nightmare, and it can really drive people away from painting in the first place. What you want to paint is you want to paint a cool feature. You want to paint these cool looking things. You don't want to paint every shirt and pants. That's boring. But like I've said, this is the only way it can be done, right? Well, not entirely. I think I've found a really, really alternative way to painting orcs that can save you so much time and get you into the actual fun part of making those orcs look good. And it's as simple as this. Instead of painting every belt buckle and strap the same value and having everything as the same kind of detail, what you do is you make a centerpiece to your orc. Whether that be the gun, a specific strap, the face, maybe even the shirt, and you make that centerpiece your masterpiece for that miniature. You make it the best you possibly can. You put as much detail into it as you can, and you make it shine incredibly. You put every bit of different coloring on detail, or maybe it's the strap. You put the checkering pattern on the strap, and you make it look really standy-outy, so that the rest of your miniature doesn't need to look as good. You can paint the same color of a brown for the whole miniatures, like leather straps, and people won't notice because you've made this masterpiece. You've made this strategy look good. For example, I'm going to show you my Orc Knob Boy Commando. This man is literally painted the same color for almost everything. The only difference I have is blue pants and the same color shirt. Not a very big color differentiation. But he has the centerpiece of him, which is the yellow armor and yellow banner sign. So I decided to make that my centerpiece. I put all my effort into making that yellow look good, so that the rest of him doesn't need to look amazing. And I used complementary colors for the pants, so I could still paint a basic color, but it makes my centerpiece stand out even more. And this is what you need to do. Pick a centerpiece to your model, paint that to the extreme, and then you don't need to worry about everything else. Sure, you can still paint different colors, and you're not going to paint all one color and have one masterpiece, but what I'm saying is you don't need to paint every belt buckle now. You can just paint the same color, and you can do little details here and there, but your main focus is going to be on the centerpiece, and this makes your miniature look as good, if not even better, because you're making the person who's looking at the miniature, including yourself, look at the masterpiece over anything else, because it's the most obvious thing there, and then you go, oh wow, that miniature's really good, when in reality, the masterpiece is good, and everything else is pretty much a dull color. But your miniature still looks fantastic, and probably even better than if you spent hours and hours and hours on every single detail. We get into how to actually play orcs. I want to go into the strengths of the army so you know exactly how they're going to play into other armies and how you can use their strength to the best ability to do well in any game you play in Warhammer 40,000. But let's get into their strengths, shall we? Number one, and probably the most obvious strength, is their melee ability. These guys are a melee army through and through. They will absolutely wipe the floor with any person you decide to put in melee. They cannot be out meleeed, they will never be out meleeed, and they will just keep on pushing. With their sustain hits ability, was giving an extra attack to every sustain hit that is rolled, with a 6 or 5, you put exploding 6s on, as well as the waaaaaagh, which gives them a bunch of extra attacks and a bunch of extra damage to each of their melee weapons. They're going to absolutely crush you if you get in melee too early in the game. So use this to your advantage. This is a crucial part of orcs. You need to have this in mind through the entire time you're building your orc army. You need to have in mind that, okay, orcs are melee. How do I make their melee the best possible? This is best through utilizing dead wounds, utilizing movement, and utilizing abilities that's going to cover them so they can get up the board further, like having Mozrog or having trucks. These two are going to be incredible. Mozrog for bullet sponging, truck for movement. You need to utilize every single melee ability you have in the army to its maximum potential to utilize their biggest strength and hopefully absolutely just wipe the floor with them round 2 when you waaaaaagh into them and just destroy their whole army so they have nothing left and you can take objectives and win the game pretty early on. The second strength of orcs is the surprisingly high resilience. Now, even though orcs do save on a 5-up, most boys save on a 5-up, you're still looking at a really strong unit in the orc army, with Mozrog having T10 toughness, feel no pain, and incredible save value, along with Ghazghkull having a 2-up save and 4-up invuln save. You've got some pretty tanky units in your orcs, and you can use them as really good bullet sponges for other armies, as well as most boys like Beast Snaggers and regular boys having a T5 toughness. You're going to be having to roll mainly 4-ups most of the time for your enemy to actually hit, so use this to your advantage. Don't be scared to push up the board when you're against a shooting army like Imperial Guard or Tau. Don't feel scared to push up, as you have the chance to tank the whole army with Mozrog, or even just your regular boys, with their toughness, they're going to be doing really, really well. And the third strength that they have that they bring really well to the table that actually surprises most people is their surprisingly high OC. This isn't talked about much in the Orc community, but Orcs have a really good OC, and you should use this as to your advantage. If you have deep striking units like boys or storm boys or death copters, you can deploy them on an objective with actually units on that, and there's a chance that you can take that. With most boys having an OC of 2, you're going to be holding down that point really, really well, and you should feel really confident with point holding, as enemies going to be scared to get in melee range with you, and you're going to hold the objective so much better than other enemies even are. Gretchens have a 2 OC. You are going to hold objectives down really well. So don't feel scared to push in with even just one. Don't be scared to deploy your deep striking units on an objective and hold it down with other units there, because you're going to hold it down really, really well. And remember, this game isn't about killing other units. It's about scoring objectives. We get into how to actually play Orcs. I want to go into the strengths of the army so you know exactly how they're going to play into other armies and how you can use their strength to the best ability to do well in any game you play in Warhammer 40,000. But let's get into their strengths, shall we? Number 1, and probably the most obvious strength, is their melee ability. These guys are a melee army through and through. They will absolutely wipe the floor with any person you decide to put in melee. They cannot be out meleeed, they will never be out meleeed, and they will just keep on pushing. With their sustain hits ability, was giving an extra attack to every sustain hit that is rolled, with a 6 or 5, you put exploding 6s on, as well as the waaaaaagh, which gives them a bunch of extra attacks and a bunch of extra damage to each of their melee weapons. They're going to absolutely crush you if you get in melee too early in the game. So use this to your advantage. This is a crucial part of Orcs. You need to have this in mind through the entire time you're building your Orc army. You need to have in mind that, okay, Orcs are melee. How do I make their melee the best possible? This is best through utilizing dead wounds, utilizing movement, and utilizing abilities that's going to cover them so they can get up the board further, like having Mozrog or having trucks. These two are going to be incredible. Mozrog for bullet sponging, truck for movement. You need to utilize every single melee ability you have in the army to its maximum potential to utilize their biggest strength and hopefully absolutely just wipe the floor with them round 2 when you waaaaaagh into them and just destroy their whole army so they have nothing left and you can take objectives and win the game pretty early on. The second strength of Orcs is the surprisingly high resilience. Now, even though Orcs do save on a 5-up, most boys save on a 5-up, you're still looking at a really strong unit in the Orc army, with Mozrog having T10 toughness, feel no pain, and incredible save value, along with Ghazghkull having a 2-up save and 4-up invuln save. You've got some pretty tanky units in your Orcs, and you can use them as really good bullet sponges for other armies, as well as most boys like Beast Snaggers and regular boys having a T5 toughness. You're going to be having to roll mainly 4-ups most of the time for your enemy to actually hit, so use this to your advantage. Don't be scared to push up the board when you're against a shooting army like Imperial Guard or Tau. Don't feel scared to push up, as you have the chance to tank the whole army with Mozrog, or even just your regular boys. With their toughness, they're going to be doing really, really well. And the third strength that they have that they bring really well to the table that actually surprises most people is their surprisingly high OC. This isn't talked about much in the Orc community, but Orcs have a really good OC, and you should use this as to your advantage. If you have deep striking units like boys or storm boys or death copters, you can deploy them on an objective with actually units on that, and there's a chance that you can take that. With most boys having an OC of 2, you're going to be holding down that point really, really well, and you should feel really confident with point holding, as enemies going to be scared to get in melee range with you, and you're going to hold the objective so much better than other enemies even are. Gretchens have a 2 OC. you are going to hold objectives down really well. So don't feel scared to push in with even just one unit. Don't be scared to deploy your deep striking units on an objective and hold it down with other units there, because you're going to hold it down really, really well. And remember, this game isn't about killing other units. It's about scoring objectives. Now we move on to the weaknesses of orcs. Now you can also use this to a bit of more ability. As you know what orcs are going to be bad at, you can use your ability to plan around them. But that's the sad thing. You can't really. These strengths can never be planned around. Unless Game Workshop completely reworks them, these strengths are going to be here through and through. So the best thing you can do is you can't work around them. You can only work through them better. So try utilize this. And don't be scared if you don't do good in this, because this is a natural orc weakness. Number one, and they're probably their biggest weakness, is their crappy shooting. With their amazing melee, you're going to have to tip off on the other side, and their shooting is absolutely crap. With an exception of a couple units, but most of the time they're going to be hitting on a 5-up, their strength is going to be horrible, you're going to get a couple attacks in, but honestly, with all the saves, you're not going to do very well, and your shooting's most likely going to do maximum 5 damage per round. Don't expect to kill anything in the shooting phase, unless you've completely designed orcs around shooting, which is absolutely retarded, and I've never seen anyone do that. Don't expect anything to happen in shooting. Simply think of shooting as a chance to score maybe a lucky 1 damage here and there. But like I said, there are some exceptions, like flash kits. Flash kits are actually incredible shooting. Now, yes, they hit on a 5-up, but with sustained hits 1, heavy, bad ruck's ability to reroll hit rolls, you're actually going to be doing really well with flash kits, and you can actually propose a shooting threat with orcs. Now, this can actually catch people off surprise, because if they don't know about flash kits, you can really, really catch them off guard with the shooting ability and have an enemy push in with a certain range thinking they're not going to get attacked, and then boom, you've got 15 attacks going into them, hitting on a 4-up with sustained hits and heavy with bad ruck's reroll hit ability. Suddenly, they don't feel as safe with a 24-inch range. But, like I said, this is still a weakness, so don't just go off flash kits. Have flash kits as a very crucial part of your army, but do not rely on shooting, as it's not going to work. The second weakness, and this one that gets me every time, and I really don't like, is their horrible AP. Gosh damn, they have horrible AP. Most of the army, and when I say most, I mean pretty much all the army, is going to be having AP -1 on their melee weapons, with a couple exceptions like Gazgol and Badrock having -3 AP, and a couple of -2 APs. But the point is, their AP sucks. You're not going to be doing much, and this is why it's an absolute nightmare to fight against -3 or -2 by save-ups. It's absolute pain to go against 2 or 3 save-ups. You are going to struggle against units with those save values. So you need, when you're fighting against those units, when you're fighting against Broadside, when you're fighting against other units with a 2-up armor save, like most of Tau, you need to be really relying on your dead wounds. You need to have armies with dead wounds pushing up and dealing with a 2-up armor save. It's the only thing that's going to get you successful. As with the -AP, sure, you might get some luck and get a couple of 3s, but honestly, you can't rely on it. It's an unreliable source, and you need to have dead wounds and sustained hits ready to go to deal with those certain 2-up armor saves, and even 3-up armor saves sometimes if it's really bad AP. And that's really their only weaknesses. Orcs do have some stuff, as they might target killing over secondaries, but honestly, their biggest weaknesses is definitely their shooting and their AP. So you need to figure out how you can play best into this. Shooting is going to be taking flash kits, and -AP is going to be using dead wounds and sustained hits as your best friend. But that's how you deal with weaknesses. You can't work around them. You can only work through them better. So keep that in mind when you're building your orc army. Part in the video where most YouTubers would show you exactly how to play orcs and my TTS view and my strategy on moving Gazgol and Mozrok up the board. But I think that's absolutely retarded. I think showing you a playstyle that's not your own is absolutely just retarded, and I hate when YouTubers do this, because if I show you how to play, if I show you my way how to play, you're taking my way and using it into an army that's built for you. You've built this army for you. You've built this for your playstyle, so why are you copying other people's playstyles? You don't need to watch other videos. You need to go out there and fail. I know this sounds a bit stupid, but you need to go out there and you need to fail with your army. You need to fail in a certain situation. You need to get a failed dice roll. You need to fail using Mozrok as a bullet sponge. You need to fail using flash kits as shooting. You need to fail using melee. You need to fail using OC. You need to fail. Because this is going to allow you to really develop your playstyle. Most people think their playstyle is fully developed in the game, before they even played a game. But that's not true. Your playstyle is developed once you fail, because now you know how to properly utilize that. And you go, okay, this didn't work, but this is going to work. And you try something new, and then boom, it works. You found a good playstyle. You implement that, and you're now winning more games than ever. I know this sounds stupid, not showing you the exact way to play orcs, but if I'm going to be honest, like I said, you got to find your own way. You got to find your own way how to utilize their strengths, their weaknesses, and how to use their best units to your advantage and your playstyle on how to play the game. I make this clear in every video. Building and playing Warhammer is completely personality based. Not one strategy is going to work for someone else, and not one specific way of using Mozrok is going to work for everybody else. You need to find the way you're going to play orcs and how you're going to play them best. Simple as can be. Don't listen to other people teach you how to play. Listen to your own failures teach you how to play orcs. But that's going to be all me today, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. And if you have further questions or want to go more in depth on how to play orcs and how to get this really keyed up area, or how to use flash kits, or how to use Mozrok, or how to use anything in orcs, then go check out my Ko-Fi link where I make custom-made videos for people who have special requests or want to get a leg up in their competition when it comes to Warhammer 40,000. But like I said, that's going to be all me today, and I hope you really enjoyed this video.